Hey everyone, Typical Hunks Adventure here. So, just leaving work. I had gone to a Tenure lunch since I've been at the company for 11 years now. It's amazing how many people at my company have been there for 10 or more years. I think we had over like 150 people, so always cool seeing people that have been around for so long at the company. One of them I've known, and before that I recorded a video where I kind of talked about personal goals for the year that I've got, and talked that entire trip up here, essentially a little bit over 50 or so minutes. And and then at the Tenure lunch, I see everyone because I work remote. I don't really see a lot of these coworkers or get to chat with them as much. There's not as many water cooler chats and things like that. And I talked the entire hour and 30 or so minutes that I was in the office, just with everyone and anyone. And one of my buddies who moved to Oregon, the company actually flew him out for a week or so, and so he was here for the lunch too. So it was nice catching up with him for a little bit, and just talking with other coworkers. So really good time. Really enjoyed it. It's always nice seeing them. Sometimes I do miss being in office, but realistically, with the commute, it's a lot, especially when I'm also taking care of my son and making sure I'm getting him to and from places, for the time being. Even on that, this is just a shorter video for right now because I'm driving to my favorite card shop. I'm actually going to look into selling some Pokemon cards I don't need. Blessing and a curse in a sense. So some of the full art trainer cards that I've had have drastically gone up in value, so they're worth a lot more. But also means it's harder to sell them in claim sales and in the online communities that I'm in, because these cards are worth so much, and not a lot of people are willing to or wanting to spend that much on certain ones, especially with just the amount of new cards and products and things coming out that people are into. So I'm going to be taking them to my favorite card shop and either selling them or possibly trading them, maybe trading them for the small list of cards that I'm interested in, which I don't know if they'll have, or maybe some smaller priced, more desirable cards that I may be able to sell, and that may be fine too. So we'll kind of see, but if I'm doing that, then at least I'll get more in-store credit for those, so that'll kind of help with the getting less if I were to take the cash value. So we'll see. But one of the things I wanted to talk about was so with my son, almost a year ago from now, last year, my son had something lodged in his ear as a cause for concern, and so we took him to an urgent care that was open in our town. I gave them my insurance info. I never heard back from them, and I never paid a copay or anything while I was there. I remember calling the day after and just like, hey, we were in, I didn't pay, it seemed kind of odd, how do I pay? And they didn't have anything on file for me, and I thought that was odd too. And they said they would get me over to billing just so we could verify, and I got sent over to billing, and it went to a voicemail, so no one answered. And I ended up leaving a voicemail and just saying, hey, here's my information, I just want to make sure that I'm paying so that there isn't some kind of outstanding balance. And another reason for that was that there have been reviews or stories that I've seen, people have posted in groups about this specific urgent care and how they never got a bill, and then randomly one day a year or two later they got a note from collections, and that hurts their credit and things like that. And she's like, no, I want to be proactive and make sure this is being handled and taken care of. And so that was my priority there. But I did all I could, without actually going to the place, I suppose. But I never heard back, and I just kind of moved on. I was like, okay, maybe they really didn't take down my insurance info because they just popped the thing out of his ear, and it's no biggie. But fast forward to yesterday, and I get my mail, and I see that it's from the urgent care, and we hadn't been there for anything else, so I knew it had to be for that visit. And it was a bill. Luckily, it was only for $60, so not anything dramatic, but just kind of funny seeing the dates of service, and them being from last summer, and then the date billed being just from a couple of days ago. So interesting how insurance gets processed and all of those things. But one thing that was a bit annoying with it was that in that it had a return envelope and you could send a check, and that was it. The place did not accept payments, so I could not send them a check like by person, or I guess maybe you could by person, but they wouldn't take cash or like any other means of that. There's no mention of paying online. There is a mention of viewing your payments and billing and stuff like that on the site. So I was kind of hopeful that maybe once I got in there'd be an option. So I logged in, I created an account and all that, and got in, and I go and it shows my bill, $60. I was like, cool, yep, that seems right. How do I pay? And the first thing on the page is, we don't accept online payments. Please contact this practice for more information. And luckily this place is open till 9 p.m. So I am calling them. They confirmed the account, confirmed the amount as well. And she was like, we can take the payment over the phone if that's fine. I was just like, absolutely, whatever's going to be the least convenient for me, where I'm not needing to go to my credit union or wherever to try and get a cashier's check or whatever it may be for this. It just seemed kind of silly, for being in this day and age and them not being able to do an online payment process. But it's all right, it's just how things are sometimes. And, you just got to adult and get through it. And luckily I did. I was able to pay over the phone. On the topic as well with my son, one of the things hasn't hit me yet like it did last year, but last year was more towards the tail end. I've kind of talked about this as well with him doing swimming lessons up in Idaho, where he's with his grandparents, and me just really missing him and everything like that. And yesterday he had my mother-in-law call, and he was just kind of crying and throwing a tantrum and everything going on, and he said he missed me. He was wondering when I would be up there, if I could go up there today to see him, today being yesterday, when he had called. And it was later at night, and I'm just like, buddy, if I get up there, you're probably going to be asleep by then, so you won't even see me. That doesn't necessarily mean I wouldn't have in a heartbeat, and I would have woken him up a little bit, or kind of give him a hug or a kiss and just let him know that I am there now. But with the Tenure lunch today and everything, my wife didn't want to try and go, she was also trying to work last night. And so I was like, well, I could do this Tenure lunch, we can go home, we can pack, we can come up today. But my wife was like, it's only been 2 days, it's probably just him throwing a tantrum, he'll be alright, just leave it. And, if something came up, it's like we could come up this weekend or something if we wanted to visit for a day or something, but I don't really know yet. But I did feel bad. It's one of those things where you're a parent and you just feel bad because someone wants to see you or have you there, and you just physically can't be at times. And that probably happens with family too if you move away. I suppose I didn't really feel that when I moved out west from Pennsylvania and left my family and everything like that. I don't know if I really felt that sense of separation as much, but probably because as an adult at that point. But maybe my parents feel that way at times. But I definitely do feel that with him, and him being younger and just kind of him crying or being pouty because he misses me already. And then only been like 2 days. We're looking at still another week or so to go. And with that, it kind of came up in conversation today because one of my coworkers that I've worked with all these years, he's been at the company for 25 years. He's getting pretty close to retirement. He has 10 kids. His youngest, I think, is 23. And they have tons of grandbabies, probably like 30 or so, I don't know. But he had mentioned that he's now an early nester, because all of his kids have moved out. And I asked, do you like it? Does it ever feel weird? Do you miss, having them around? But to him, he he says he loves it because they're busybodies. They're always doing something. They're always out and about. They're always caring for their kids, going somewhere to pick up maybe a grandkid or something, so that their kids can have a break for a little bit, and going and doing things, or they come and visit. So he's like, it doesn't really affect us as much, and that's understandable. It's gonna be different for each person. But yeah, I kind of mentioned that story to him, and I said, maybe when my kids are older, it won't be as big of a deal. But right now, when they're young, after a couple of days, I just kind of feel sad when I don't see them or hear from them. Maybe it's a part of just not getting to experience whatever they're currently experiencing, with him doing the swimming lessons, or just any of the fun things that maybe my in-laws are taking them out to do, just things like that. But yeah, we kind of talked about that a little bit with the empty nesters and things along those lines, and And then another thing was, so at the Tenure lunch, my current boss right now, who used to be a peer with me when I was in management along with him, we kind of talked about things as well, because he just got back from parental leave, and he's got a young one now, and he has 2 other kids that are in different stages of life in terms of age, and just talking about the complexities of it, and what that brings. So in his case with 3 kids, she's like, oh yeah, that means you need to get a different vehicle, potentially, depending on, because you can't just have a 4-seater anymore. And yeah, he mentioned that was one of the biggest things that they had to figure out once they knew they were having a 3rd one on the way. And yeah, it was good catching up with him and chatting. I had my one-on-one today with him. It would have been in person, but I just didn't have any other meetings after that. I didn't want to be stuck at the office and trying to find a spot, because I don't have a designated desk or anything like that. And bringing my laptop, it'll auto-connect to the Wi-Fi, and if it hasn't been updated in a while, which it hasn't, it would just lock me out. And it's just, I didn't want to do with any of that ordeal and trying to do any of that. So I decided I would have the one-on-one at home, and then afterwards I would begin my journey into the office. But it was good. It went well. It actually went over time, because we just chatted a lot, talked about life and some things, and sense, just trying to have that personal connection. It doesn't always have to just be about work. We're all humans. And then we talked about my progress with the code. He actually mentioned imposter syndrome for something else, and we kind of had to talk about that. And I mentioned how I personally was dealing with that last year, and just feeling like I was never going to overcome learning enough code to feel confident, especially in speaking about code and doing trainings on code and being able to answer questions when said people came to me asking how to help them out with certain things in debugging it, or getting a test to work, or maybe the first steps, and things like that. But, I mentioned, at the end of the year, I felt a lot better about it. And with this year, I had those interactive trainings that I've been giving, as well as, like the guided ones of documentation and everything like that. So all of those went well. And I kind of mentioned some of the other, successes and things that I've had going on that I've been proud of and figuring out. And yeah, one of the other things he did mention, which I can support, it makes sense, is he asked who I typically go to when I need help with something. Now, I've never gone to him because I know he's always busy and we are a team, and I can usually reach out to my other team members. It also helps that I've known people for years, so I'm often going to check with them instead of reaching out to him, because based on history, sometimes it can take him hours to get back to me. And being in management, he's going to be in and out of meetings all the time, so it's not as practical. If it's something higher up where it's like, hey, I need to get permissions for this, or hey, these people aren't approving these things, or like nothing's moving, general stuff like that, I think it's good where, like with the managerial title and things and whatnot for him, he can do a nudge or say, hey, is there any update on this? Or he can get other people's, managers or whatever involved too, to make sure that there is traction and visibility, and that people are, being held accountable with actually getting stuff moving along. So things like that is kind of where I'm using that. But I did mention, she's like, yeah, I typically reach out to this coworker, who's one of the seniors on the team, and she knows what she's doing. She's also a friend of mine, so I know, we chat throughout the day anyway. But I did mention, I reach out to other people occasionally. Sometimes it just comes down to availability. If someone's not working for the day, does that just mean I don't reach out to anyone? Absolutely not. I'll reach out to another person. But I also mentioned that I'm usually not reaching out with complex issues that I'm trying to solve. Occasionally that does come up, but I don't like to do that because that means I'm probably not doing enough research on my own. It just means like, hey, I ran into this problem, help me fix it. What I like to do is trying to figure out enough of it until I'm hitting my head on the wall, or I have both sides of a picture or what it's trying to accomplish. So it might be something like, I know what I need this code to do, and this is the end result I'm expecting, and I have this stuff set up for it, but it's not quite doing it for some reason. Can you help me figure out why this isn't working? Or it's just like, I've got this piece and this piece. I'm trying to bridge them together to get this piece of code to work, but for whatever reason, I'm stumped at this piece that's just not quite clicking for me. And things like that have been good, because then there's less involvement in trying to figure out where we're at. They understand the bigger picture on code and what's trying to accomplish. But yeah, so the thing that he mentioned was, instead of reaching out to people all the time, one of the things we want to work on is using our chat. So we already have a group chat with our engineers in it, and saying, hey, I'm running into this problem, and you kind of get more info and kind of go from there in terms of figuring it out. And I was like, yeah, absolutely, that makes sense to me in terms of kind of going about that. But yeah, from that, I think one of the issues is just waiting for people to respond and kind of help you from there too, right? Because that may not happen right away, and then you're just kind of stuck waiting, where the same people are just going to respond to you anyway, and you're like, oh, why didn't I just reach out to them directly? So things like that, you're just never going to know. So that's one thing I don't like about roads here in Utah. I'm going to swing back. A lot of roads will turn into another road. So, like for instance, if there's like a 12,300, it might be a road I want to be on. I got off on exit 12,600 because I was expecting maybe it kind of winds and gets to where I need. But there must be another exit just after this one where it is going to adjust. I don't know. But I was like, yeah, the kart store I want to go to is just a little bit further up. And I was like, I'll take the next road, turn down a block or so to get to where I need to. But yeah, I guess that was not the case. So I'm probably just gonna go down to the next main road and then kind of go from there, unless something stands out to me and I realize I am on the right road for some reason. But like I said, I haven't been in this kart store in a long time, so I just made note of the road and where to go. But yeah, must be a little bit off, so a little bit disappointing. Now I feel like I'm getting out further than where I intended, or maybe this was the right road, but it was back the other way. I guess that is a possibility too. So we'll see. Not the end of the world. Definitely don't let things get to you. I know some people do that where they are about to miss a turn and they hurry and swerve and then cause traffic accidents or all kinds of stuff, just trying to make that. And it's just like, no, just go down, take the next exit. If you need to turn back and do some other things, it's fine. It might add 10, 15 minutes or whatever to your drive. Sure, that sucks, but it's better than risking an accident. It's better than putting others' lives at harm for split action or something that you're trying to accomplish. In this case, I was going to go down and flip back, but I'm now on this mini highway that was supposed to alleviate issues with the other highway I was on, but every single major road on this highway has a light. So I don't know if you could really call it even a highway, because it just has lights, and it's just stop and go. You get up the speed, 60, 65 or whatever, and then you just get to the next light and you slow down. So not super ideal either, but yeah, that's how it is here. I feel like Utah, they don't plan enough in the future. They just plan for what the current needs are, even with highways. If it's like, oh yeah, let's build this one out with like one lane, and then a year later it's just like, oh, we need 3 lanes because it's expanding, and then they know they're building more businesses and homes. It's like, okay, maybe 3 isn't enough. Maybe you should just jump to the next conclusion and have 5 to make sure that it's alleviating any problems or bottlenecks and things like that you might run into in that sense. But yeah, so with all that said, the one-on-one, it did go well. We kind of talked about that things. I do like the idea too to post in the chat, and then that allows anyone to chime in. It allows people to collaborate. It also allows people to know where you're kind of struggling. And one of the things I kind of liked with that as well, goodness, there's doing some construction here, so making sure I knew where to get into, was it kind of came up because one of the things I mentioned was with the Friday meetings I do, where I go over code with people, and one of the things with that is I'm just showing the finished code and like the final product and what I did. I'm not showing the process of how I've kind of gotten there. So with things like this where I'm asking for help, that also kind of helps, because that allows people to also see like, hey, yeah, this is what that I'm kind of running into with that, and it allows them to also see what I'm going to fix it. So if someone puts in a suggestion or something that helps me, then awesome. If I then end up figuring out what the problem ends up being, then I can also put that in the chat and say, oh, this is what I figured out. And then in the Friday meetings, when I'm going over that code, people that are already in that chat can see that as well, and they realize, oh yeah, I remember when he was running into this is what he ended up doing to fix that. So things like that I think are good. And I've kind of talked about that too with one of my buddies, the one that came in from Oregon, because he used to do automation, but now he does like performance testing, but he still does do trainings on automation just because he knows so much. And I mentioned this story to him as well, with those meetings, and he actually said the same thing. He said last year he had a suggestion or something for him to do more of what he was doing, because in one of the trainings that he was doing, it didn't go as smooth as intended, and he ran into a small issue. And while he had people on the call with him, they got to watch him try and debug and troubleshoot and figure out said issue, and they got to see his thought process and how he was going about fixing the code, identifying where the problem might have been, fixing that problem. Oh, there we go. Goodness, that little bump really did a number. And yeah, it's just it's things like that, and you figure them out, and people get to sit in there and watch, and it's really good. And in that sense, and they liked that. They liked seeing him not be a know-it-all for once with something. Now, of course, he did figure out the code, but just being able to see a bit more of that, I think, was good. And that was some of the feedback that he got. It's like, hey, we like seeing things like that. Now, of course, you can make a training where you purposely have bad code and maybe seem shocked, like, hey, why isn't this working? Or give an interactive training where you have people write code, and then the code doesn't work, and then you all work through it, each person. And that's kind of what I plan on doing with some stuff, where it's just like, figuring out the code and letting them then kind of deal with it from there. One moment, just making sure I'm following this traffic pattern correctly, because they are doing a lot of road work. I'm on the opposite side of the road, and then sometimes I'm in the middle, and it's just back and forth. And now my camera doesn't want to stay up, so I've got that going on. Fun times. But yeah, it's just a lot of that, and that's kind of what I want to do with the interactive trainings, and then help people. And just every one of those bumps. I had to redo my arm on this because I wanted it to be lower, but then it was touching my car dash, and I didn't want to do that in case of the vibrations, because I didn't want that like coming through on the phone. Yeah, hopefully it's fine now. Hopefully there's no more bumps. I guess I could technically just get off this road, and hopefully the next one doesn't have as many bumps. But yeah, he really liked that and started incorporating that into his trainings, or just doing what he would do as a clean slate, but then he would have like a final product at the end of the code that people can then look at afterwards as needed. But at least that way they got to work through and figure out writing code from scratch, kind of see how to go about it. So yeah, that is definitely something that I will be looking into in terms of doing those kind of trainings. There was something else I was going to mention about them, but I can't remember. I feel like my brain is just a bit scattered with the road work and the bumps, and with that jostling of my phone around. So that's great as well. Also just had a bird fly in my car. So but yeah, I think those trainings will be good. I like that it's more hands-on. Oh, I remember what I was going to say. One of the main things that I think that he brought up that I thought was a really good point is when you're doing these interactive trainings and everyone is following the same code and everything like that, I think one of the most important things is if you have an issue and something isn't working like it is like in the training, definitely speak up. Don't shy away from it. Don't just act like your code's working or try and figure it out. If it gets stressing you out, definitely speak up and say, hey, I'm following step by step. I feel like I'm doing the exact thing you're doing, but my code isn't working, or something else. Because, who's to say there isn't another person in the group having that same issue, but they're also afraid to speak up. And then there's two people that aren't able to continue on with the training, and at that point it's not as hands-on, and they're just following the screen and watching, like what you're doing. It helps in that sense. And then also we want people to be able to follow along. Maybe the code is fine and it's not your fault. Maybe you have the wrong version of Java installed on your machine, or some other kind of variable or something that you need wasn't added and has nothing to do with following the course and the steps that we were doing. So I think stuff like that, it's very important to make sure that you are speaking up when something isn't working that should be working. Yeah, I am back on the road I was originally, so that was quite the trip back. Now, the thing I have to hope for is, and I'm pretty sure I know it now, that I need to turn right instead of left when I had gotten off the freeway. Because now that I think about it, when I usually visit this place, when I would get off the freeway that I was on, if I was coming from my house, I would turn left to go under and then go a couple blocks, and then I would get to the place. But for some reason, I was thinking about it when I was leaving my work that I'd be coming from the freeway, which is further away. So I was like, oh yeah, I'll get off, and it's going to be a long stretch, and I'll go under an underpass, and then after said underpass is a little bit further, that's where this card shop is going to be. But in this case, no, that's not the case. So I was already around the next underpass that I would have taken to get home, and yeah, so a bit more driving, but that's okay. I don't really have anything else to chat about. Probably fine. You're listening in now at this point. I'm just kind of rambling, and if anything, my voice is probably cutting out a bit. That's not to say I don't have anything else to talk about. When I leave the card shop, I'll actually be starting up another video that I would like to just kind of talk about as I'm driving home. One thing I will say is I kind of like these now. So I do like listening to music when I film in cars, but sometimes I like doing these vlogs. I like chatting. I like getting, current thoughts or ideas or things that I just want to talk about out there. Also, it helps in terms of like this channel. If I'm wanting to have content, then I can kind of talk about things, especially if you're genuinely interested or curious about my life and just want to hear me talk, or you're just someone who's just curious what someone else is doing, and how they're doing their car vlog, whatever else may be going on, and maybe how I handle my camera getting pumped around. I'll have to take a look at this once I get to the car shop. There's probably like one piece that's a little bit loose after I adjusted the arm to get the sit up a little bit higher. So yeah, but again, with this, I imagine someone isn't just watching me talk. It would just be something on in the background if you were ever curious. But yeah, the video that I'm planning on recording once I leave the car shop is actually just going to be a bit about my story and kind of how I met my wife and our journey through some things, and just talking about anything else. But alright, I think this arm is finally at its last leg in terms of staying up. I am about a block or so from the cart shop anyway, so I guess I'll end that here. But yeah, stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you in the next one.